From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White. Canada is imposing new tariffs on American goods in response to U.S. President Donald Trump's new 25% duties today on aluminum and steel. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly says these tariffs from the U.S. are unjustified.
The latest excuse is national security, despite the fact that Canadian steel and aluminum add to America's security, not take away from it. All the while, there is a threat to further and broader tariffs on April 2nd still looming. The excuse for those tariffs shifts every day.
She says she plans to bring up the tariffs at this week's meeting of G7 foreign ministers in Quebec. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is set to get a face-to-face meeting tomorrow with one of America's top officials. Ford will accompany Federal Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc, but Ford says this is a Team Canada trip.
Make no mistake, it's going to be the federal government moving forward with this, but I think the premiers have a big say. All 13 premiers will have a big say how we move forward. But that's the most important thing, and build that relationship with their team.
Ford was invited to the White House to talk with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick about tariffs and trade. Now, Hamilton, Ontario is one of the cities set to feel these U.S. steel tariffs. Mayor Andrea Horvath says about 28,000 people work in Hamilton's steel industry, but all 600,000 of her residents will feel the effects.
We will take a hit, and that hit is going to be impactful the longer these tariffs are in place. And real people, real families, real business owners are going to be hurt, and that for me is very painful.
Horvath says the federal government and the province have already said they would support workers and companies if the tariff war continues. The Bank of Canada cut its benchmark interest rate today by a quarter point as it warns trade uncertainty is already hurting the Canadian economy.
The move marks the central bank's seventh straight cut and brings its key rate down to 2.75%. While inflation has been well behaved and the economy was picking up speed heading into 2025, the Bank of Canada warns the tariff battle with the U.S. could change that in a hurry. Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem says trade uncertainty was already harming the economy before tariffs were imposed last week. Macklem says the central bank will proceed carefully with further changes to interest rates as it weighs the impact of tariffs on inflation and growth. Michelle Zedekian, The Canadian Press.
The Vatican says a chest X-ray confirms improvements in the condition of Pope Francis as he remains hospitalized with pneumonia. Doctors say Francis is making slow, gradual improvements and is no longer in imminent danger of death. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, the Vancouver Canucks look to rebound tonight as they visit the Calgary Flames in a high-stakes NHL matchup. Vancouver's 1 point back of Calgary for the final wildcard spot in the Western Conference. Elsewhere in the league, the Montreal Canadiens are in Seattle. The Montreal Victoire look to extend their lead in the Professional Women's Hockey League standings as they visit the New York Sirens tonight. In basketball action, the Toronto Raptors are hosting the Philadelphia 76ers. Canada coach Jesse Marsh's newest recruits, forwards Daniel Jebison and Promise David, have been included in his roster for next week's CONCACAF Nations League Finals in Inglewood, California.
Both of these two are big talents. I think they fit the way we play. And I think, now when you look at our overall depth of attacking options, it's a pretty strong group.
Canada will face Mexico in a semifinal match with the winner facing either Panama or the U.S. in the championship game. From the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.